Once social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. You cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore. Like the other immigrant groups, the day will come when we win the economic and political rewards which are in keeping with our numbers in society. The day will come when the politicians will do the right thing for our people out of political necessity and not out of charity or idealism.
Cesar Estrada Chavez, an American civil rights activist and labor leader, was born in Yuma, Arizona on March 31, 1927. The Chavez family lost their Arizona homestead in the Great Depression and in the late 1930s moved to Northern California.
Cesar and his family became migrant farm workers thrust into the industrialized agriculture of California.
Cesar dropped out of school after the 8th grade to help support his family by working in the fields.
Cesar joined the Navy right after World War II, and he saw places he never would have seen, so it did open his eyes up to the world very much.
After the Navy, Chavez returned to the fields and became a grassroots organizer for a Latino civil rights group. He then left the group and formed the National Farm Workers Association, now known as the United Farm Workers of America, with the goal of unionizing farm workers.
Cesar believed that the movement he founded had to be more than just a union that was solely concerned with improving wages, hours, and working conditions, although the UFW certainly did that. But it also needed to address the crippling dilemmas that farm workers face in the community after they came home from work.
Most people were poor. They didn't have access to good housing or health care or education.
Chavez was adamant that his new union follow a strict policy of using only nonviolent tactics as a means of negotiation. While the organization was still in its infancy, UFW embarked upon one of the most influential boycotts in U.S. history, the boycott of all California table grapes.
The grape boycott really took off in '68. Cesar had studied history. He knew that for 100 years, farm worker strikes were brutally crushed, and that the agricultural industry, which in California is one of the richest, most powerful industries in the state, controlled much of rural California. So what Cesar needed to do was take the fight from the fields, where the odds were stacked against the farm workers, and move it to the cities, where the farm workers at least had a chance.
Over the next few years, led by Cesar Chavez, the farm workers would boycott, protest, march, and fast their way to a collective bargaining agreement, which guaranteed field workers, among other things, increased pay and the right to unionize.
He was responsible for a lot of the labor codes that we see today, the protections, the benefits, but the basic right to organize and affiliate.
As the head of the United Farm Workers of America, labor rights was not the only cause championed by Chavez.
Cesar's commitment to social justice went far beyond the farm workers. In the 1960s, he was a strong and vocal opponent of the Vietnam War. In the 1970s, Cesar was an early and vocal supporter of gay rights. Also not a popular position, especially at that time, among his own constituency.
Cesar Chavez died in his sleep on April 23, 1993. He was survived by his wife Helen, their 8 children, and 31 grandchildren. In 1994, he was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Bill Clinton.
In 1975, there was a reporter with a national news magazine following Cesar around for several days, rallies, marches, picket lines. And in an interview, she asked him, what accounts for all the affection and respect that farm workers show you in public? And Cesar paused for a moment, and then he smiled his easy smile, and he said, the feeling is mutual.